This is not going to go the way you think because this is a Brief Nerdy podcast. And welcome to the Brief Nerdy podcast. My name is Ryan. I'll be your host this week. Joining once again is my always good friend and always good co-host, Trent.
Hello.
And our always other good friend and always other good co-host, TJ.
Hello.
Introduce you first once, TJ, just to throw Trent for a loop. Just be like, wait, what? I thought, what?
You traitor snake! I would not mistake.
Yeah. But welcome. We have a meaty episode for you all. I don't know how long it's going to be as of this recording because we're only 46 seconds in. However, we will...
Seconds.
What?
Huh? What?
I don't know. We will be talking Last Jedi Spoilercast. We're not going to get right to it. We'll have a little bit at the beginning that does not encompass any Last Jedi spoilers. So if you haven't seen it yet, feel free to stick around for the first handful of minutes here, and then we'll give you ample warning before we dive right into Last Jedi Spoilercast. But we have a lot of good stuff for you. But let's first get started with our round robin. We're going to discuss the funniest Star Wars moment to us, excluding The Last Jedi. So yeah, any Star Wars, anything, any comics or TV shows, movies, whatever you want, whatever you feel is the funniest Star Trek. Wow, I'm awesome. Funniest Star Wars moment, excluding Last Jedi. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I really like the part in episode 1 where Jar Jar Binks gets his tongue stuck in Anakin's pod racer beam.
Oh my gosh, I almost died.
No. My funniest, and I wasn't thinking beyond the movies when you presented this topic, but the one part I always laugh at, always to this day, even though I've seen it like 100 times, in Empire Strikes Back, when Han is leaving to go find Luke, and I know this is a part that has been joked about in Robot Chicken and everything, but when the Rebel Guard says, "Your Tauntaun will freeze before you reach the first marker," and Han replies with, "Then I'll see you in hell." It's the one standout line in Star Wars that I'm like, I don't know if this really fits, but I'm really glad it's in here. And I love it. That's our Han.
I like what you said with the Robot Chicken joke. I'll see you in hell. What was that? Oh, nothing.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Oh man.
I could go ahead and go next.
Do it.
I thought that The Force Awakens did a lot of things to bring a lot of good comedy into the Star Wars universe. Not that the other movies weren't funny or there are a lot of funny moments, but I felt Force Awakens tended to nail the humor to just a sweet spot that I like it. And so I had to pick one from it, and I'm going to go with shortly after Han, Finn, and Chewie land on Starkiller Base, and Finn says, "We'll use the Force." And Han just goes, "That's not how the Force works."
Yeah, that's a great one.
I thought it was just a perfect culmination of the fact in the original trilogy he didn't believe in the Force, to giving his nice little speech earlier in the movie where he's like, it's true and all of it. And so he seems to have a fairly decent grasp on how the Force works. And so when Finn just out of nowhere, "We'll use the Force," that's not how the Force works. I just thought it was perfect.
And it's like yet another moment where Finn's getting called on his total BS.
Yeah.
You don't know anything you're doing, do you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult for me to because it's funny that we have to. We're excluding Last Jedi because of spoiler reasons, but I think Last Jedi is probably one of the funniest Star Wars movies to date, and so I really wanted to. We'll get to that stuff later, but
yeah.
I was gonna talk about something from episode 7, but I always get a huge kick in episode 5 when it's when Chewie's laughing at Han because I think Leia just kissed Luke, right? At the very beginning.
Uh-huh.
Then Chewie starts laughing at Han, and he's like, "Laugh it up, fuzzball."
I love that line.
That line always gets me every time.
And that's one thing too, like I know it's just Chewie laughing, so obviously, it's clear what he's doing, but you got to really give it up to the writers over the years that have given these characters that you can't understand, like a sense of humor. So like even when R2D2 is talking, you don't really know what he's saying, but you can kind of figure it out. And sometimes it's hilarious, even though you're not hearing any words at all.
Oh yeah, they do that really well with BB-8, I think, especially in the new ones.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, good stuff. Those are our funniest Star Wars moments, excluding Last Jedi. And stay tuned for our spoiler cast at the end, because we'll talk about all of our favorite funny moments from Last Jedi. So, but first, let's get into what we're playing. Trent, why don't you kick us off?
So it's something I don't know if I've talked about on the podcast before, but some friends and I got back into recently a game called Speedrunners, and it's a pretty casual indie game on Steam. It's very simple, very basic, like art style and design and everything. And literally, it's just like you race your friends by running across a map, and there's like jumps and items and things you can trip people and skip past them and all kinds of fun stuff. So it's really simple, really fun. It's a great multiplayer game, so I recommend it to everyone. So yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Cool. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, very cool. TJ.
So it's not. So wait. So really quick. So like I haven't seen that game before. So is it a linear path, but you have like different routes, or is it pretty like open?
So it's a 2D side scroller.
Oh, okay.
And there's various obstacles. There's definitely like different ways to go. There's shortcuts you can find in the different levels, and you have a grappling hook, and there's kind of a physics to it. Like if you hang on too long, it slams you up into the ceiling type thing, and you lose your momentum. But if you do it right, you can swing and kind of gather speed. There's different items and different levels if you jump, or there's like boxes that you have to jump over or slide under, or things like that. So it's lots of fun. And there's items you can use on the other players, like the rockets and ice beams to freeze them and stuff like that. So
Cool.
And, over time, the screen. Well, so you run until like it's infinite until there's a countdown, and then there's also if anyone falls off the back edge of the screen, then it explodes, and then the screen starts getting smaller and smaller and smaller until there's one person left. So that's how you determine who wins each round, because there's no
okay.
technical end to the level. So if you have 4 really good people, like you can go all the way until the time runs out, and then the person in last place blows up, and then the screen starts to shrink, etc., etc. But I mean, you can do like 4 or 5 laps through the map each time. It's really fun, and it's only $15, so I recommend
That's always a good thing.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Let's see, TJ, have you had a chance to play through the Zelda DLC yet?
You know what? No, I have not. I've been sidetracked with like holiday stuff, and I told you before that I know once I start it, I'm going to be like completely invested in it. And there are just some other little games that have come out that I've been, picking up and playing here and there. So no, I have not started it yet, but I already have it. It's loaded up, ready to go. Just got to start it.
Got it. Well, that's what I did play this week. I beat it in about a day, maybe half in the evening one night and then half another afterwards. So maybe not took one day, 2 days, but I want to say maybe 8 hours, 10 hours or so took me to complete it. I don't want to say it's bad because it's definitely not, but I mean, it's just more of the same, I guess. I think I expected a little bit more with it being like, oh, it's new story content and a new dungeon is kind of what they advertised when they advertised the DLC. And while I will say that they did that, it's kind of like the same type of storytelling the game already has, and the same type of dungeon the game already has. So,
yeah, it was kind of my dream for this dungeon that they were going to add to be like a traditional Zelda style dungeon, full of like different enemies and stuff like that with like an item at the end. But yeah, from what I heard, it's just it almost seems like another Divine Beast.
Yeah, I don't want to get any spoilers for those who want to play it, and especially for you since you haven't played it. But yeah. You're really close there. So,
well, let me ask you this, because I know this isn't really a spoiler, but they add more shrines, and I heard the shrines are really good. Do the shrines still give you the same reward? So can you finally max out your hearts and your stamina meter now?
No.
Really?
I think there's like a dozen, maybe like 15 new shrines or so. The first couple give you a normal reward you get at the end of a shrine, but the rest of them don't. They're just part of the story. You have to progress to the next section. So I could give you a little, just kind of a rundown of the structure of the DLC, if you don't mind. The beginning starts you off at the Great Plateau, and it gives you it's not the same challenge as Eventide Island, but just like Eventide Island, you're back on the Great Plateau and you have a new challenge to face while you're there, and you can't leave the Great Plateau. I mean, you can, but it resets the challenge. And during that, there's a few new shrines. Once you complete different sections of that challenge, you get a new shrine. And then after that, you basically have to go back to each divine beast, not inside, but just to the location. And then it basically unlocks potentially 3 new shrines at each divine beast location or the surrounding area around it. And a little mini puzzle to solve to get it to show up, kind of like the shrine quests from before, but a lot tinier, I guess I would say. And then you get the shrines there, but those don't give you a shrine sphere or whatever those things are called. You just have to beat all 3 of those shrines to finish a final challenge for that quote-unquote divine beast, and then like you've done that section of this, then you get a cutscene at the end. And then you do that for all 4 divine beasts, or just the areas of the map, all 4 corners of the map, so to speak. And then that's when the final dungeon is unlocked for you. And then after the final dungeon, you get the reward that was presented to you in the trailer.
Oh, okay. Huh. Now, were there like side missions and stuff that you didn't complete?
Yeah, all the costume ones, because the DLC comes with new costumes and stuff like that. For Link, like classic costumes like the shopkeeper from Link Between Worlds hat and stuff like that. I planned to get them all, but kind of like it's just so funny that it's pretty much the same thing that happened when I beat the main game. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get all the shrines and stuff like that. But then when I got to around 80, I was like, I'm kind of done. And same thing, like after I beat the dungeon and got the item you get at the end, I used the item a little bit, and then I was like, and I'm kind of done. Just kind of turned the game off and didn't really have any desire to go, hunt down all the side quests or just the extra costumes I got with the DLC. So,
well, see, the first half of the DLC they released, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't like the story content and stuff that I was ultimately looking for, but I really liked what it added to the game. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And now with this, I understand it does a little bit of story stuff, but it does add, a decent amount more content. I'm just wondering how the game is as a whole now. Like for someone who hasn't played it yet and they're like, you know what, I'm going all in. I'm going to play this game everyone's talking about. I'm going to get the DLC and then just play it from the beginning and experience all of it at once instead of like, oh, okay, I did everything. Oh, this new DLC pack's out. I'll go back. I'll jump back in, and I'll play that. Okay, I beat this. Now I'll wait till the next one. I wonder what it's like as like a whole entire brand new experience.
It'd be interesting because I believe you can't do the content unless you've beaten all 4 divine beasts.
Yeah, that's true, but that doesn't mean you have to beat the whole game.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people that beat the 4 divine beasts and then did all the other stuff before even going to the final area. So, yeah. Well.
So, again, not bad. I was just whelmed by it.
Whelmed.
I just kind of wonder if maybe they're like, because they did announce yesterday or today that they have already started work on the new Zelda, which, I mean, anyone could have guessed that. But I do wonder if maybe they're like, well, we want to put more content into this game, but let's take these ideas that we have and just start work on the new one. Because I would absolutely love for them to do what they did with Majora's Mask, where they just take everything that exists in Breath of the Wild and just kind of turn it on its head and just release another game like maybe a year and a half from now, with the same engine, same like characters and stuff like that, but just a weird like warped version of the world. I would love to see that instead of waiting another 5 or 6 years for another one. So who knows? Maybe that's what they're doing.
Yeah. So I mean, if you like Breath of the Wild, then you'll like the DLC. So
cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it.
Yeah. So what have you been playing, TJ? If you didn't play the Zelda DLC?
Yeah, I was really anticipating this game called The End Is Nigh. It came out earlier this year on PC, but it is from the creators of Super Meat Boy. And Super Meat Boy is like one of my favorite games of all time. In my opinion, it's like 2D platforming perfection as far as the controls go and everything. So this game, The End Is Nigh, it's not a sequel to Super Meat Boy, but it sure does feel like one. And it's like everything that I could have wanted from another game from those developers. The controls, I don't see how the controls could possibly get any better or any tighter. But yeah, you just play as this little blob named Ash. I'm pretty sure the story is like it's the end of the world and you're one of the last survivors. And you just have to go through all these levels. Every level consists of like the entire screen, so you could see exactly what you're getting into, and it's really quick. And it's one of those games where you're going to die a lot, but as soon as you die, it puts you right back at the beginning, resets everything. So you will die multiple times, but it's so quick that it never gets frustrating. And it has that same feeling that Super Meat Boy gave me where it's really difficult, but man, when you complete a room that's really giving you trouble or you complete a level, it's so satisfying because you know that there was no luck involved. It was all just the skill and it was you getting better every single time that you tried it.
That sounds so awesome. I love Super Meat Boy, so can't believe I didn't even hear about this game.
Yeah, it's been out on PC for a while. You know, I'm sure it's really cheap, but you can get it. I think it's only on the Switch. I don't think it came in other consoles, but if you download it, it's only $15, and there's a ton of content in it. I think there's 600 plus levels and a ton of things to unlock.
Awesome.
But they do sell a physical copy too for Switch that comes with the game, and a full color instruction manual, and a little squishy like character of the main character Ash. So, yeah.
That's
I love
awesome.
it. I can't recommend it enough.
I definitely check this out.
Yeah, at this point, it might actually be in one of my like top. I usually do like a top 6 favorite games of the year. I think it might make the top 6 for me. So
nice. I kind of like the art style. I'm looking at it right now on Steam. It's very like inky and
yeah, a lot of it's like black and white, but there is some color in some of the later stages and stuff. But yeah, it's awesome. I played it in handheld mode and on the TV. It's great on both. Yeah, can't recommend it enough.
It's on my short list now.
Cool.
Why don't you go ahead and let us know what you watched this week, TJ, while you're at it?
Yeah, so trying to change it up a little bit instead of just talking about the normal TV shows and everything I watch. I wasn't on the show last week, so I didn't get a chance to talk about it then. But like a week and a half ago, I saw Jumanji. I got invited to the premiere by The Rock. He wanted to bring one special guest, so he invited me, and I wore my prettiest dress, and we strolled down that runway like we were kings and queens of the world. But by all that, I mean I did not go to the I did not go to the premiere. Amazon Prime had a special like viewing of it 2 weeks in advance. You had to buy the tickets through Amazon, but yeah, like a ton of theaters were playing it. Which I thought was funny because the premiere of that movie happened like days after that. So everyone got to see it before they even did the premiere.
That's weird, but all right, that's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, and tickets were like normal price and everything. There wasn't like an upcharge or anything like that. But
I wonder if they're worried about like turnout and they're trying to generate buzz or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. But I guess a quick review of it. I love the original Jumanji. I was kind of on the fence about seeing this one, but then I heard in one of the interviews that the world that they go into in this one is the world that Alan lived in while he was a kid, you know, growing up in the jungle for all those years. So I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I want to see what that's all about. And then this movie, it's not a bad movie per se, but I felt like they didn't really do the jungle stuff as much as they should have. Like this movie probably had a third, if even that, of the amount of animals that the original Jumanji had.
Oh yeah?
Which is really weird because that's the thing that people remember the most from that movie is like, what crazy animal am I going to see come out of the board game next?
Yeah, like the stampede and the lion and those like creepy plant things.
Yeah. So this movie did not really have a lot of that. The whole premise is, if you haven't seen the previews, Jumanji decides to turn itself into a video game since it feels like no one really plays board games anymore. And these 4 teenagers get sucked into the game and they become those game characters. So like Jack Black, for example, is a teenage girl in Jack Black's body. And, same for The Rock, and
Yeah.
Kevin Hart. But
it's a really funny like pretense because board games are almost more popular now than they've ever been.
yeah, as someone that like plays a lot of board games and knows a lot of people that play board games, I'm like, I don't know what they're really talking about. Especially now, you'd think gamers now would love to find the real Jumanji game.
Yeah,
I'd
for
love
real.
to actually have that happen. But
I would die.
but yeah, I mean the movie it's not bad. I don't think it lives up to the original in a lot of ways. But I mean if you want to see something just like stupid fun humor, I mean it's not bad. But there are some jokes in there that I think take it a little too far. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's one of those movies where you're like, do they want this to be a kids movie or not? Because there were some times where like The Rock and Kevin Hart are going back and forth, and I'm like, I don't know if this was even in the script. I feel like they're like, oh, we got The Rock and Kevin Hart here. Let's just film them doing stuff, and if it's good, we'll throw it in the movie, even if it doesn't really make sense for a kids movie.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's fine, I guess.
We're using Movie Pass to go see it.
Yeah, it is definite movie pass movie.
Cool.
But and as far as like I obviously will not spoil anything, but as far as the connection to the original Jumanji, it is a very, very tiny part.
Huh.
So what they said in the interview about you see this world and you kind of see the path that Alan took, no, that doesn't really happen. There's one very small reference. It's a nice reference, but that's about it. So
sad.
Yep.
That's okay. I'll see it anyway. I'll let you know what I think when I see it.
Sure.
Just kind of as a side note here, I actually started, I think I told you guys before, I'm actually kind of keeping track of my Movie Pass spending so I can know like if I'm in the positive or the negative. I did purchase the year of Movie Pass for $90, and so I'm in the red right now, but I'm only in the red $31.
Oh, wow.
So, if I see $30 worth of movies before next November, I'll look broken even. So, but I might just finish that with Star Wars alone, going to see it multiple times. So, we'll see.
Cool.
But yeah, Trent, why don't you go ahead and share what you watched, and we will nerd out about it together.
Well, prepare yourself, all those who are listening, because the other two are about to geek out. I finished Breaking Bad.
Woo!
They've only been waiting how long now for me to finish the show?
All that matters is that you finished it.
Yeah.
True. And I listened to most of the Breaking Bad Spoilercast that you guys did.
Nice.
I fell asleep, I'll be honest. I was listening to it and I started getting super drowsy at like 4 in the morning. And so I pulled over in the middle of this random rest stop and just fell asleep in my car while it was still playing.
Got it.
Oh.
So I'll have to go back and listen to it again because it like skipped to the end when I woke up and I'm like, oh crap. So
anyone that has not listened to it and had some interest, know that if you listen to it, you will probably fall asleep. So thank you, Trent. Thank you for that wonderful recommendation.
Not that it's not interesting. It's a thing, and I was driving it.
I know.
For a day. So.
All right. Well, so did you love it as much as people told you should love it, or did you just enjoy it, or did you hate it?
Only one of those first two. The rest is not impossible, or the rest is impossible.
No, I mean, I really did like most of it. It's hard to really talk about because it's just such a ridiculously intense show to cover in 2 minutes worth of feelings.
Yeah.
Forget the Last Jedi. Let's just do another Breaking Bad cast right here.
That's right. But no, it is really good. Although I will say that I might want to catch up on Better Call Saul before I listen to the spoiler cast again, because you guys were letting it fly a little bit with some who's gonna show up and things that I would have been happily surprised by.
Ah,
I will
my
no
bad.
longer be happily surprised by. I will be happily affected, but just not surprised.
Got it.
Hmm.
My bad. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, Ryan, sorry, he didn't mean to.
There's no like story spoilers, so I'm not like upset. But I just for anyone who wants to listen, if you want zero Better Call Saul spoilers, you should wait just a little bit.
And see, it's funny because it was the reverse effect for me since I watched Saul before Breaking Bad. So I would watch Saul, see these characters, and then when they showed up in Breaking Bad, I'm like, oh, what?
That's awesome. Yeah, so it's I really liked it. It's a really, really fun, intense show. And it's something that I noticed as I was watching with Ryan that like each episode felt like 2 or 3 episodes sometimes by the time they were done because they would fit so much stuff into each episode. And like you guys mentioned more than once on the spoiler cast is that they don't waste any time.
No.
No wasted scenes, there's no wasted anything. Like
Yeah.
I remember looking at my watch and be like, it's only been half an hour, and I feel like we've had like 3 episodes worth of major plot points go by.
Yeah.
It's very intense, and like just from where season 5 starts to where it ends, holy crap, it's ridiculous.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Me
Yeah,
too.
me too.
We'll have to start Saul soon.
Yes, very excited.
All right. Well, I think that does it for the What You Watching, What You Playing segment. Unless anyone has any objections, let's dive right into our Star Wars: The Last Jedi Spoilercast. This is your official spoiler warning. We'll be going over all the spoilers for Last Jedi. So no spoiler will be left unturned. So turn back now and come back and watch it / listen to it when you are caught up on Star Wars. But if not, you're doomed. Not really. All right, well, let's get this party started with Trent once again. Trent, why don't you go ahead and just start with your kind of overall feelings with the movie?
You think I would be ready for this, but somehow I find myself not ready for it.
Nobody's ready for this.
It'll be. So I've seen it twice now. I saw it opening night, and then I saw it again yesterday morning, which was Sunday morning. And I will say that after the end of my first viewing, I enjoyed it, but I kind of felt a little let down by some stuff. And then Sunday when I watched it again, and I knew what I was going to get and what I could just sit back and watch with no expectations, no hopes for like specific things to happen, and it got a lot better for me. So I'm probably in the like B plus A minus category at the moment. It's very funny. It's very surprising in a lot of ways. And I swear the second time there are so many lines, we can talk about this as we go through, that I feel like Ryan Johnson wrote these in specifically like for the fans. But like he addressed these lines to us. And I will talk about it in a little bit. But yeah, I liked it. That was good. Apparently I'm in the minority among a lot of Star Wars fans.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
The mood online is very divided.
That is true. But I would say the division is probably 80% in your camp. If I were to just do a guess.
Rotten Tomatoes audience score would disagree with you.
I think that's brigading, though.
Huh?
I think that's just brigading by the Mad fans.
That's probably true.
It's really representative of Star Wars fans or even general audiences.
Or that's the balance. For all of those who hate it, there are just as many who love it.
Hatred and liking to meet it.
I could go ahead and go next. I have only seen it once, and I can only hope that my second time is like Trent's second time, where I like it a little bit more the second time. Though, even though I would still call it a good movie, I would say I was more let down or disappointed than Trent, and I've kind of had like a dark cloud hanging over me all weekend because of it. it kind of started like in the middle of the film. I was kind of just thinking like, I don't like this. Why do I not like this? What's wrong with me? And it actually like it took a lot out of me. Like for the first like 2 or 3 minutes after the credits started rolling, for me to just be like, I don't like this. I mean, I don't love it, so to speak. I'm still kind of struggling and reeling from that fact. And so we'll have to see how my opinion changes. And once again, I want to reiterate that it's definitely not a bad movie by any means, but it might be like the 4th or 5th best Star Wars movie. So we'll have to see as we go from there, but we'll get into more details as we continue. And I definitely don't fault anybody for loving it. So
No, neither do I.
So TJ, what about you?
Yeah, so I did get a chance to see it again. I went and saw it again this morning. Actually, the first movie I've ever went to by myself, which was interesting. It was a good experience. I went to a very early show, and there were quite a few people there, even more than I thought would be. So that was good, and it seemed like, the audience had a good time and stuff. But the first time I saw it, yeah, I felt very similar to what you were describing, Ryan, where I didn't hate it, but I just kind of, once the credits started rolling, I had a lot of questions, and there were just certain parts and certain characters I was thinking about and wondering if maybe I missed something, or maybe I didn't like get to fully take it all in because I was trying to take it all in, since it's a new Star Wars. So I was really looking forward to the second showing, but there was still that part of me that wasn't like, I wasn't really pushing myself to go, or I felt like I had to push myself to go see it. Like I wanted to see it again, but I wasn't like racing to the theater at the earliest possible moment. I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll go see it again on Monday. Like I really want to, because I want my opinion to change. I want to like it more than I originally did. But then I went, and I came out of it feeling the exact same as I did when I saw it the first time. I didn't like it any less, but I also didn't like it really any more.
I don't know how I'm gonna feel the second time.
Well, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's not, once again, it is not a bad movie. I wouldn't even call it a bad Star Wars movie. But like one of the things I got out of seeing it the second time around, I mean, some people are probably going to give me so much crap for this. It had a lot of scenes that took me back to the prequel movies more so than it took me back to the original trilogy. Like it had the feel of some of the prequel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like the casino, for example. That whole casino, just with like the aliens and creatures they had there, and just the whole setting and everything. I'm like, this doesn't feel like the original trilogy to me. This feels like the prequels, where it almost does feel kind of fake. Like you don't really, it's not believable, even though everything in Star Wars should be like unbelievable. But like I compare it to Maz Kanata's bar in The Force Awakens, where it's like, oh, okay, obviously this is a throwback to the cantina, but it did feel familiar, and it felt more like welcoming and easier to accept. But then the casino, I'm like, man, this almost feels really out of place. So I don't know if you guys felt the same or not, but
So I would ask, do the prequels feel out of place for you? Because I mean, it seems interesting that you would compare it to the prequels, and then say like that I didn't like. I mean, do you not like the prequels, or?
I definitely don't like the prequels as much as the original trilogy. I'm not one of those people that says like, oh my gosh, the prequels are terrible and just, think they're awful movies. I have a lot of nostalgia, especially for episode 1. That's a lot of people's most hated of the 3 prequels, but that movie just really meant a lot to me because I did like feel that Star Wars magic. I was a lot younger, but when I went to it, I did like the characters. I loved it, everything about it. But like looking back on it, it does have a lot of flaws, and it has a lot of faults, but I still have that nostalgia for it. So, but yeah, the prequels as a whole, I'm not. What's that?
Sorry, I didn't quite ask it the right way. It's not like I'm like, how dare you not like the prequels? But it's more like, I don't know, like, I guess like it's my question, like, does a blending of the original and the prequels, like, because you use the term out of place, like I'm curious, like where that feeling comes from.
Well, okay, so no, I think I get what you're saying. So with the prequels, I don't feel like the prequels and the original trilogy really blend well together in every aspect. So like you could show a scene from one of the prequels and know it's from the prequels, and then from the original, know it's from that. Not just because the film quality and like the the time that it was shot difference, and the difference in technology, but just I don't know, it has a certain feel. The prequels have a certain feel that's different from the original trilogy. And Force Awakens, I felt new, but it didn't feel like the prequels to me. It felt like a new rendition of the original trilogy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So, and there were a lot of parts in this one that didn't feel like that to me, and that kind of took me out of it.
I think I mostly agree with your statement, TJ. I wouldn't go as far as say it's like it feels like the prequels, because I also enjoy the prequels, but
well, I didn't say the whole movie felt like the prequel.
I mean, I'm talking specifically about the Canto Bight scene. Sure. I just felt, due to other reasons in the story, I felt it was kind of completely unnecessary. But then, just for some reason, for just personally to me, the pacing of the movie kind of went out the window.
Yeah.
During that scene, just the whole few scenes that involved Canto Bight, it just seemed like, okay, we're here to get a hacker. Oh crap, we're under arrest. Oh, run away. Oh, okay, we're arrested. Oh, I could be your hacker for you. Oh, look, there's manners when you say free the animals, crash the casino. It's just like, oh, okay, what's happening? Like, it just kind of all over the place, and and even though I quote unquote politically agree with like everything that they kind of say, or the message that the movie is trying to convey during that time, obviously animal abuse is bad, and people selling weapons to both sides to profit from warmongering, is bad and stuff like that. I felt it was just a little bit heavy-handed for a Star Wars movie. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people say that like George Lucas like was commenting on the Bush administration back in the prequel days, but by his words, he's commenting on like the Vietnam War and stuff like that. But either way, you could consider it a lot more subtle than that. Mm-hmm. And so I felt it was just a little bit too on the nose for Star Wars for me. And then just like I said, the entire pacing. And so I was excited for Canto Bight because I made sure I tried to finish the Canto Bight novel right before the movie came out, and I did. I finished it the day of, like around my lunchtime. And so I was very excited to see Canto Bight in the movie, and I was disappointed with what it presented.
Yeah, I would definitely say, even though I really did enjoy the movie, I could have done without the entirety of the Canto Bight mission.
Yeah.
I think the story itself could have also. Like nothing really important happened. It doesn't really progress the main story at all. And literally nothing good comes of it, except for like it's a little tiny, annoying, in the form of a child Easter egg at the end, and like it causes the death of a bunch of rebels. Like,
yeah, because like I feel like if Finn and Rose figured out, how to stop like that tracking and stuff like that, and they're like, okay, we just need to get on that ship, like not worrying about having a code breaker and stuff. Right. I feel like they could have cut a big chunk of that out, and then they still could have got captured and everything like that. Yeah, it did feel like it dragged on a little too long. And I'm a person that says, I hope the new Star Wars movie is 6 hours. I hope it's 7 hours, like as much Star Wars as, humanly possible. But after seeing this, I'm like, okay, it could have been a bit shorter.
I just felt that during those scenes, I'm like, I want to see what's going on with Rey. I want to see what's going on, somewhere else.
Yeah. Same exact way. It's.
So it seems
I feel like the pacing was off. It was badly written. If it wasn't for BB-8 being there, I would have hated it completely.
Yeah, him shooting coins out was priceless.
Yeah, like his like Scarface moment where he shoots the coins and then like blows the gun or whatever. Like, I'll take that. Like if BB-8 had gone solo on that mission, I'd be all about it.
I did like the attention to detail in that whole in those scenes where that little guy was filling up BB-8 with those coins, and then before BB-8 shoots all those coins out, every time they show him rolling around, you can hear the coins jangling around inside of him, like when he's going down the stairs and everything.
They actually show like kind of a slots machine type machine on the wall that kind of looks like a big version of him, also like to set up why the guy was putting the coins in him in the first place.
Yeah.
I love that too.
But did you guys notice? I'm not trying to like nitpick or anything, but did you notice with some of the dialogue, like did any of the dialogue in the movie feel out of place to you guys or not feel like Star Wars? I have a few examples, but I just want to see first if you guys picked up on it.
There's one line that I felt really stood out to me.
What's that?
Godspeed, rebels. When the transports are flying away, and then
Oh, yeah,
admiral's
and
waiting
and he's about to die.
well, she's about to. Well, no, so it's the Jurassic Park chick. I forget her name.
Holdo.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Holdo. And she's watching the transports leave, and she says, "Godspeed, rebels."
Oh, because I guess I'm confused because another person says Godspeed also. He's the guy who like he evacuated one of the ships and he's like, I'm the last one. I got them all evacuated. You know, it was great serving you. And right before he blows up, he says Godspeed, rebels.
Oh, huh. I didn't catch that part.
Yeah, I catch either of those lines.
And it's not that I don't like the line, it's just that there's no reference to a god in Star Wars that I can think of before
Yeah.
that. There's a lot of religion. But
Well, I guess you can argue that about Han, I'll see you in hell.
well,
So
that's true. That is a very good example.
well, because some of the examples I had were in Canto Bight where I heard this the first time, and I'm pretty sure I heard it the second time. Finn calls the guards cops. He says, hurry up before the cops get here.
Huh.
Did you guys notice that?
I didn't. I really need to see this movie again.
Yeah, he says that. And then when those cops or those guards are chasing them through the field when they're riding on the back of those things, I'm sorry, I don't remember the names.
Yeah, they say perps.
Yeah, are they saying perps, like perpetrators?
I think so. They're like, forget the herd, follow the perps.
Yeah, follow the perps.
Oh man.
And I'm like, cops and perps, like, what? and maybe to some people that are, they're gonna hear that and go, oh my god, like it's totally nitpicking. But for them to like purposely never have lines like that in other Star Wars movies, it just felt really, really out of place.
Yeah.
I mean, for Finn to say cops, like cops isn't even a proper name. It's police officer, and it's a nickname that we've given them. Like, I think it's based off coppers. I mean, I don't even know the origin, but it's slang.
You can just see Finn and Rose riding on that beast, and like, you never catch me, copper.
Yeah.
Just kind of speaking of dialogue, I didn't realize this till after the movie, but I thought about it. But this is now the only Star Wars movie where they don't say I have a bad feeling about this.
That's right.
What? No, that makes me sad.
Now, so I mean, it's so hard to even like control this conversation that we're having because it's so easy to jump all over the place. There's so much to say, good and maybe not so good. But do you think that was on purpose? Because it feels like the whole theme of this movie is out with the old, in with the new. The old doesn't work anymore, or the old might be broken, or it's outdated. You need to get rid of that and do new. So do you think that was purposely done where, okay, every Star Wars movie has this line, this is going to be the first one where we don't say it?
I can't say one way or the other, but if I had to choose a side, I would probably say yeah. Because I find it hard to believe that like nobody on the staff at any point, forgot about it, or all forgot about it.
Yeah.
Well, how much writing did was it Lawrence Kasdan? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Was he involved? He was involved in this, right?
Yeah, he was.
He's been involved in almost all of them. So, you think he would know his own, like, writing tricks and stuff? Like,
and it's actually part of, and we'll probably go into this a little bit later, but it's actually a small part of the bigger problem I have just with the movie as a whole is that they decided now, two movies before the end of the Skywalker saga, quote unquote, to start, shaking things up and doing things radically different. But we could get to that later in a more grand scope. But
I get that there's the need, and I'm kind of playing my own devil's advocate at this point, but I get that there's the need to change things up, and I like some of the things they change, but on some level, it's like this is a Star Wars movie, and like there are some traditions that are important. I mean, like, are you going to be like, oh, every other movie's had a lightsaber, we're not going to have any more lightsabers?
Yeah.
No one's ever going to say that because that's the coolest part of Star Wars, or like one of the cooler parts anyway. But let's at what point is this no longer a Star Wars movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they just swung the pendulum too hard the other way after the response to Force Awakens.
Yeah. Like, I feel like the reactions would be a lot different if The Force Awakens felt like this one. Because then people go, whoa, like, this does feel kind of different. Like, clearly they're trying to take it in a different direction, but this is the start of a new trilogy. But when the biggest complaint about The Force Awakens is, man, this feels so familiar, follows a lot of the same beats, sure does feel like those original movies. And then to have the second movie in a trilogy just throw it all out the window, like you're saying, Ryan, that's where I'm like, okay, this almost feels like a slap in the face to The Force Awakens. Like, hey, J.J. Abrams, everything you did, yeah, I don't like some of that stuff, so I'm just going to end it here.
Yeah.
I don't like any of it, mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like, I've seen a lot of jokes online where people are like, Force Awakens, we hate it because it's too similar. Last Jedi, we hate it because it's too different. And like, oh, Star Wars fans just can't be pleased. I was like, well, no, I mean, maybe they went on some of their decisions, it was a little unneeded.
Yeah.
Like,
And really,
would it have killed them to have like I have a bad feeling about this line, just like
Mhm.
there somewhere.
yeah.
I
No,
mean, it's
like,
nostalgia,
Even Rogue One stuck it in with kind of a joke on top of it.
right? I don't know.
So
yeah.
I mean, I'll defend a lot of the changes that were made,
Mhm.
but some of them I feel like were just to for change sake, and like not doesn't really affect anything.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I saw what you were talking about, Trent, where yeah, they are saying like, oh, people complained that was too similar. Now they hate that this one's different. You can't please them. Like, yeah, that's going around, but there's a lot of stuff in this that's really not that different. Like the whole throne room scene with Kylo,
Oh yeah,
Rey, and Snoke.
I feel like
That
there's
is
some lines
almost
that were directly stolen.
well, yeah, but that whole sequence is almost beat for beat from the Emperor scene in Return of the Jedi with Luke and Vader.
that's why I like it so much.
Ray
they're
comes in.
using-
Ray comes in with the cuffs. He frees
Right.
her from the cuffs, like kind of like teasing her, saying, "Oh, you're free to do whatever you want. Try whatever you can. It's not going to work." And then taking the lightsaber, keeping it at the side, and Ray saying, "Oh, you're not going to turn him. There's good in him." And then Snoke going, "Oh, look out the window. All your rebel friends are dying."
Right.
It was almost beat for beat, and the only thing that made it different was afterwards when Snoke was killed. Ray or
the same,
Kylo wasn't good, and he still
they-
had.
Yeah, they even use some of the exact same music beats, like music cues.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when where she's suffering and they pan to Kylo's face and the exact same music.
Yeah,
Him, like reacting to her suffering.
and that fight scene, like a lot of people are really praising that lightsaber scene with Rey and Kylo versus those guards.
I really liked it.
It was a cool scene. Like, don't get me wrong, but I'm like, it didn't feel like it felt kind of forced to me. No pun intended. Because I know, like Snoke is dead. That's who they're protecting, and then they kind of go after him. Like, I almost feel like it maybe would have been better if they hurt Snoke and then the guards attacked and then Kylo finished off Snoke. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it would be really hard to like play that out, but for them to kill him or for Kylo Ren to kill him and then all the guards, just go crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't feel like it didn't feel right to me.
Especially with the theory that like those guards are the other Knights of Ren, which some people have. I disagree personally,
I
but
also disagree.
Oh, I didn't hear that, but yeah, I probably wouldn't agree.
yeah, like, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, no, those are the Knights," because they wouldn't have just left them behind. I was like, well, then wouldn't some or most of them have just joined Kylo as soon as he killed Snoke? Like,
Or bring
Yeah.
out an actual lightsaber, since they were assumingly the handful of students that Kylo took with him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, see, and that brings up another good question too. Where are the Knights of Ren? They showed them. We got to see them in Rey's vision in the first one, so we know like they do exist. Where did they go?
I think it's just one of the many examples of Ryan Johnson being like, "Yeah, I don't care about that. I'm not going to use it in my movie."
Yeah.
Or
I kind of wonder now that we have JJ finishing the trilogy. I wonder if there's going to be a little bit of a tug of war that goes on. We're like, haha, JK, double reversal. Ray's parents are blank. Like,
I 100% think that's true. Not just the Ray's parents thing, but just like JJ's gonna be like, "Oh, well, that's what you did with like everything I set up for you." Then like, fine, I'm gonna like. I wouldn't put it past him just one bit, because it's almost like Ryan Johnson took every setup or mystery box that JJ set up, and yeah. So
to the point where it does feel like a slap in the face. And I feel like that's one of the big problems I have with the movie. It's just like, well, I know fans go crazy with their fan theories and stuff, and it does get exhausting after a while. But to not have any reveal or any information about some of these big things that people have been wondering about, it like it just doesn't feel right. Like Snoke is dead now, but why should anyone care? No one even knows who Snoke is or like what his real motivations were. And
Yeah.
in Force Awakens, Kyle was like, I'm going to train with Snoke. He's going to make me the most powerful, as powerful as I can possibly be. Like Snoke. And in this one, he's like, oh, well, yeah, you're kind of making me mad, so I'm just going to kill you. Out with the old, in with the new.
I definitely feel you, and I think slap in the face is a bit stronger than I would put it. I would definitely consider it, disrespectful, just to the audience themselves.
That's a better way to put it.
Because it's the fans kind of hype it up themselves, like who Rey's parents, who his Snoke is, but it's only because Force Awakens set us up to do those kinds of things.
Yeah.
The best example I have of all of this is the very, very beginning of the movie. I mean, we're excited for Luke to receive his lightsaber and have that first interaction with Rey, and we talked about all the different ways it could go down. And he just literally throws it away, and
before even saying anything.
Almost more for the point of trying to get a gag in there, be like, "Ha! You thought this was going to be a big deal? Joke's on you!" He just throws it away.
Well, I think that is really funny though. Like of all the things that happened, I actually really liked that one.
Yeah, it's a funny moment. I kind of laughed, but kind of went like, "Oh, okay." At the same time, so
yeah.
But the thing is, like, this is Luke Skywalker, like the character of arguably like the main character of Star Wars, like the original trilogy. Like everyone knows who Luke Skywalker is, and they've been waiting. I can't even say that. No one's been waiting for him to come back, but the fact that he is coming back for this, like, it's a big deal. And for him to do that as the very first thing we see him do, it's just like, oh, well, okay. Like, what other crazy, wacky things is he going to do that we're not expecting? It just didn't feel like a Luke thing.
Go ahead, Trent.
The Luke differences are actually some of the things that I came away with the second time liking a whole lot more than I did the first time.
Okay,
that's good.
I liked the additions I liked the reveals that we did find out about him, and I felt like all of his motivations became a lot more understandable and a lot more realistic after we found out exactly what happened. And I think that was one of the moments that actually paid off. Not only was it a change from what we were expecting, but it was a reveal that was hinted at in the first one that they followed through on. And that's why I was more frustrated about Snoke's reveal, or complete lack of reveal, was because like Luke's was so good in response to, in comparison to the Snoke. Oh, he's dead. Like, I don't know.
Well, with what was I going to say? There's so much that I'm thinking about. Like, I want to talk about so many different things at once, but I don't want to jump around too much.
Well, just to keep digging into that one a little bit. Here you have a guy who was like built up so much by the galaxy, like this big hero, the legend. He obviously can't fail because he's Luke Skywalker. Like this is what he says during the movie. And then he has like the biggest, most profound failure of his life, and it happens with his nephew, someone that he loves dearly, and that his sister trusted with him, and like it just completely like messes with his head.
And see, like, I get that that's what they're going for, but this is also the character that was determined to save his father, like the worst person in the galaxy, the most feared, evil person, and he's so determined to save him, and he ends up doing it. Like, that is a huge accomplishment. And he overcame, those odds, and he did the impossible. And now in this, 25, 30 years later, he fails with his nephew, and he just goes, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm out. See you guys. Everybody I love, you're never going to see me again. I'm getting out of here. I'm not going to use the Force anymore. That just doesn't feel like a thing that Luke would do.
But the failure with Kylo Ren in his eyes completely undid everything that his grand gesture had done with his dad. He created the next Darth Vader. Like it undid everything that he could have hoped to do in his life, according to his viewpoint.
Well, that's an interesting way of seeing it. What's your take on all that, Ryan?
I'm kind of in the middle, and I kind of go back and forth myself too, where I think, oh, I hate what they've done with Luke. He goes to like exactly what you said. I don't want to just repeat everything you said, but basically everything you said, TJ, and then so, and I kind of agree with you at the same time, Trent, and so I'm really back and forth, which is probably the biggest struggle for me because it's probably my biggest hurdle to get over with the movie, because I mean, we all had in our head who Luke Skywalker was, and it pains me to see him like that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I would be okay with him doing that if I thought his redemption, quote unquote, at the end was good enough, which I don't think it quite was. And so that's kind of where I really struggle with it. I thought it was good, but I thought it was like maybe 70% there with what happened at the end.
Well, I just feel like I hate how Empire is known for ending on like a dark note. Like, they don't really win. The rebels don't really win in Empire, and that's why that movie kind of stands out, because it's like, oh wow, this kind of ends on like a bummer note. But with this though, it's not the same like type of bummer feeling. Like this one, it just feels like everyone is like just screwing up and just failing across the board. And not even just with this, but like even in The Force Awakens, it's very hard to see these characters that we know and love all kind of end up in a really bad place. Like Han and Leia, they're together, they have a son, they raise their son, and then their son turns evil from the dark side. Han and Leia split up. Han goes back to doing the old Han stuff that he does, finally comes back to help, and then he's dead. His son kills him. He failed as a father. And then you get... What's that?
Oh, go ahead, finish your thought.
Well, and then I was going to say, and then you have Luke, everything that we talked about with there, and in the end, okay, he kind of comes back once, does his thing, and then he's dead. Leia, I know it's different because the passing of Carrie Fisher, like especially after seeing this, really makes me wonder how different it would have been if that didn't happen. And just knowing that the third movie going forward, like I don't know what they're gonna do with her. I don't know if they have some parts that they can just put in there that they already filmed, but I don't know if they made changes to what happens to her in this movie just because they know they can't have them in the third movie like it was originally planned.
Questions.
What's that?
They have now stated that her performance was not altered at all. They kept everything as it was originally intended in this movie, and they've also said they're not going to bring her back and CG her in episode 9. And so based on the way episode 8 ends, I'm pretty sure at this time there will be a standard Star Wars time jump, and I could see the next movie beginning with a funeral of some kind.
Oh, interesting.
That's just my own theory for episode 9, but we know that Leia's part in 8 was unaltered.
And I would have guessed that because they had an easy way of getting rid of her.
Yeah,
if they wanted to.
Well, and then like with what I'm saying about the characters, like Chewbacca, I think is an exception because Chewbacca's still Chewbacca. He's the Chewbacca that everyone wants to see. But then you even have like R2D2, where R2D2 shut down like the whole Force Awakens movie, and now in this, like he has a few parts. He has an awesome part in this one when he shows the original hologram of Leia to kind of like inspire Luke again. That was great. So like he had his moment.
Yeah.
But then even like, a character like Admiral Akbar, you see him in this and you're like, oh, cool. And then they just quickly say, oh yeah, everyone on that ship, including Admiral Akbar, is dead. And I'm like, they killed another person. Like they're just killing everyone. And it's just so hard for me to accept that in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. So I'm going to back up just to where when I interrupted you before.
Sure. Yeah.
You don't mind me. You kind of jumped around that time, but
sorry.
So part of my struggle with Luke, kind of what I mentioned before, is simply because I felt that Princess Leia got her, I guess, not shining moment, but she feels like Princess Leia and a continuation of the character that we knew from the original trilogy, and Han feels the same way. Like we still got to see that rugged smuggler side of him, but then we got to see Han Solo, the rebel hero, at the same time. And so I felt that both of them have now gone out on a high note, whereas I just kind of sighed when Luke disappeared on top of that rock. I was like, really, you know.
Yeah.
So that's probably my big struggle.
Of those three characters, I think that he's like, I don't think his story is done yet.
And that's my A New Hope. I'm like, oh, I hope, like, but at the same time, I'm like, oh crap, because like everyone is now assuming that he's going to show up in Episode 9 in Force Ghost form, or maybe even something more powerful. I mean, we saw that Yoda manipulated the physical world to lightning strike that tree. And so, who says Luke can't physically manifest himself and fight with a lightsaber? Not saying he will, but I don't think he will. But you know, they've set a new bar for what dead Jedi can do. And so, like, I have to just hope that, you know, the Luke I wanted to see is around in Episode 9, or just does something that makes me squee. Because, yeah, I was at the end until, you know, the reveal. But
and I don't think you're saying this, because I know I'm definitely not saying this, but I'm not saying like we need to see classic Luke and he can't be any different than he was. Like he needs to be the same old Luke that we all know and love. Like, yeah, it's not that. It's just I feel like the route that they took with him just wasn't one that I kind of envisioned, and that's why it's hard for me to accept it.
Well, no, and I totally get that feeling. You know, I mean, like I am a huge fan of, like, you know, I started reading the Legends books when I was 14, you know, working at a bookstore, my first job, and like that post Return of the Jedi Luke, you know, Grand Master, you know, Luke Skywalker, who reestablished the Jedi Order and, you know, saves the galaxy dozens of times, you know, like cosmic superhero. Like that's the Luke that I've known for years, and that's one of the things I had the hardest time getting rid of. Is like there would be like almost any of that in this movie, and we got a tiny little taste of it, but I don't know.
Well, it definitely does not ruin the old movies for me, but now when I watch those, I am going to see Luke in a different light, because when he saves, you know, Anakin, he saves his father and overcomes that huge hurdle, we know like, oh, okay, well he did this, but years down the road he's going to screw up and he's going to run away and hide. And then when he comes back, he's not physically going to come back. He's going to force project himself there and, you know, kind of to like use that as a distraction so everyone can escape, so he could save the day without actually being there. Like that also didn't really sit well with me. I'm like, why couldn't Luke just actually go there? Why couldn't he physically go there?
they even teased us with the X-Wing.
Yeah, they did. Because, okay, so let me get into some of the technical questions that I have, and maybe you guys have an answer for this. So Luke shows up. He sees Leia. You know, they haven't seen each other in a while. You know, they have their back and forth. He gives her those dice from Han's ship, and he kisses her on the head. I feel like at that moment she knew, like, okay, Luke's not here. Or since her and Luke have that, you know, brother and sister connection, she probably knew all along that he wasn't physically there, but she wasn't going to say anything. Because the whole reason he was there was to kind of inspire hope and, you know, set the distraction. So he gives her those dice, and he leaves. He goes outside. Kylo sees him. You know, they shoot him. Doesn't do anything. Kylo goes to fight him. They never actually make contact with each other. I thought it was a cool detail how, you know, Kylo was making the red footprints in the salt, and Luke wasn't.
Yep.
But instantly, I mean, did you guys think right when Luke showed up and pulled out his lightsaber, like, wait, why does he have the blue lightsaber?
Yes.
Like, it's broken. Like, what is this? And then I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of funny that Luke rushed to get there and he decided to cut his hair before he left. I'm like, I don't know why he thought that was really important, but obviously it makes sense, you know, once we find out.
You know, hyperspace instant, you know, he still had to, like, you know, wait a little while, so he's like, oh,
I just imagine him, they, like, after he's dead, they look in his cockpit and he just has hair clippings all inside. But no, so
it's because he showed up early and like he couldn't have his grand entrance, so he's like, well, I might as well cut my hair and shave while I'm waiting. Here,
yeah.
can you help me out, buddy? Like,
So and they have their showdown, and then Kylo realizes, okay, he's not here, and then Luke's like, if you strike me down, I'll be more powerful than you could ever imagine. I'm always going to be with you, blah blah blah. So then Luke dies, and then they escape, the rebels escape, and Kylo goes in there, and he finds those dice. He picks them up. They make a noise and everything, and he has them in the palm of his hand, and they disappear.
Yep.
How were those? Like, I don't understand that, and maybe that's more nitpicking. But how were those dice physically there?
Yeah, no idea.
I don't get how that works, especially considering he found those after Luke is gone. Like, Luke is dead. He stopped doing the projection. So why didn't those dice go with him? Why did they disappear when he picked them up?
Well, I mean, it's the same question as any force power. Like,
well, and that actually leads into my biggest question: is what are the limitations of these force powers? Because as we can see throughout the whole movie, Rey and Kylo Ren are having, like, basically they're FaceTiming with each other.
Yeah.
Like the entire movie. And you find out that Snoke was kind of like behind that, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I didn't know that they could really do this to this extent. And then Luke force projects himself there. It's like, okay, well, I really didn't know that they could do that. It's just, what are the limitations to these force powers?
These are new force powers, so at this point, we don't know.
Right.
I think it's
the Star Wars magic system, as it were, is very mysterious and undefined. So it's the force powers can do whatever the writers want them to do.
Can do whatever will help push the story along in the exact way that they want it to go.
Yeah, it's the a wizard did it. Of Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to shift gears a little bit and talk about Holdo's Kamakami Lightspeed scene.
Yes, I want to talk about that too.
Which has gotten the best reaction out of both crowds of the movies that I've seen, of any scene in this whole movie.
Yeah, so I just want to say that it was visually spectacular, and I kind of got a gasp out of myself as well. But then I kind of started thinking about it, and I was like, wait, if any capital ship, I recognize it is a large ship, but if any ship can just point itself at a fleet and enter hyperspace, it breaks Star Wars.
No, it really does, because it's like, think of like the original Death Star attacks. Why couldn't they just do that?
We have this extra Moncal cruiser here. Let's just hyperspace into the Death Star.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really cool moment, but yeah, the more you think about it, it does kind of break everything. And then going forward, it's like, is, the First Order going to go, oh, well, now we know what our main attack's going to be.
Like, even Han even says in Force Awakens, like, oh, we have to approach the planet at light speed or else we can't get through the shield. And he undoes the shield right before hitting the planet, which is a complaint of Force Awakens of itself. But anyone could be like, hey, there's the oscillator. Let's just throw a ship into it.
Yeah.
Destroy the oscillator on the surface of a Starkiller base.
I mean, what did you think about that, Trent?
I don't know. I mean, either the physics of it allow for it or they don't. Han talks a little bit about it in episode 4. Like, you got to be careful about what you do in hyperspace, or you could, cause a star to go explode or stuff like that. And it's, I mean, we already know now that if you, take like a 747 and crash it into an oil tanker, like, you're gonna, it's, that's the best way to quote unquote like destroy it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't mean that like everybody's now doing kamikazes just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and even then, so like Holdo, she sacrificed herself to do that, and they knew that she was going to do that. Like, Leia knew. But earlier in the movie, they reprimanded Poe because he was like, okay, now we're going to finish off this bomber. Let's bring in the bombers. And they're like, well, no, don't. Like, get out of there. And he's like, oh, nope, we got to take out this ship while we have the chance. And then he gets in trouble for that because they lost so many lives doing it. Yeah, sure, he accomplished that, but they lost a lot of lives. I know they didn't know that at the time, but they followed them through hyperspace, so those ships probably would have all been destroyed anyways. But the whole lesson was, we can't sacrifice the people that we have just to accomplish, a certain thing. So then what does Holdo do? She sacrifices herself to save everyone else. Then at the end, Finn goes to sacrifice himself, and Rose stops him and goes, no, no, no. You shouldn't sacrifice yourself because it's more important to protect the people you love than to like hurt the people you hate, or whatever the line is. So
Yeah.
it was kind of going like back and forth with this lesson of like, what's more important. And I don't know, it just sent very mixed messages to me. I didn't understand why Leia was so open to, oh yeah, Holdo, go for it. Like, I understand it's what you have to do to save us. Yeah, go die.
I mean, she tries to tell her to come with. Yeah, I don't know, like, why. I mean, Star Wars technology has always confused me a little bit because it's futuristic, but at the same time, it's really not. Like,
Yeah.
can they not just remote control the ship? Like,
Yeah. And even that, like a ship of that size, she's like, oh, well, we need one person there to control it. And it's like, really? Like, that's all it takes is one person?
right?
So,
and even though we don't, the technology is inconsistent, but I just feel that now we have an example of something that works with the rules that we've been given.
yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
If I was Leia, I'm like, all right, everybody, go find some asteroids in the asteroid field. I can show you where to get one, and let's strap a bunch of hyperdrives to them.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's where I felt like that message was a little inconsistent throughout the whole movie. Because then even Finn, like if Finn would have sacrificed himself at the end and took down that gun, like what would they have done? I don't think they could have gotten in there.
If what he did would have taken it out.
They would have died anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing was just to buy time.
Yeah.
The reinforcements to show up. Even if they hadn't gotten through the door, the rebels would have starved eventually if they hadn't.
Well, yeah.
The way out.
Well, and as far as like not to kind of jump back, but one other thing I wanted to kind of ask you guys about was when we were talking about the Force powers, when Leia, that scene like gave me chills when that happened. I'm like, what is happening right now? Where she's outside of the ship and she uses the Force or whatever to like kind of propel herself back in. And I was like, what did I just see? And I was so excited to hear more about that or just get some sort of explanation, and then nothing. Like they don't explain it at all. So do you guys know what that was?
I'm one of the few people that, I mean, I have a lot of complaints with this movie, but I feel that's one thing that didn't really need an explanation. It's either one of two things. A, she had a little bit of Force training and she could do enough to pull herself, and she's in space, which requires which has zero resistance, so even a slight pull would get her where she needed to go. Another one could argue that it was just like an instinct that kind of popped in, you kind of a fight or flight sort of thing that you kind of gave her a Force adrenaline shot to be able to do that, maybe even slightly unconsciously.
Yeah,
I would say it's either one of those.
Yeah.
I would say I like the idea of it happening, and just on paper it sounds really cool to me, but for some reason just the execution of the scene just made me feel a little awkward. I don't know what it was.
It didn't quite work. In my head, like I mean I've said I don't know how many times now that I've wanted my like Princess Leia Force Master. She is also a Skywalker, damn it moment. And I got it, but like I could have thought of like a dozen other ways to have done it cooler, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And to have it feel more like awe-inspiring and amazing. Like I don't know, like just have her like as soon as the explosion happens, like cut the camera earlier so you don't see her flying into space. But like they go to like look inside the door and they see her like floating there with a bubble around her or something. Like that would have been cooler.
Oh yeah.
The first thing that kind of came to my head was like maybe just have her show a little bit of emotion, like struggle or like fear.
Yeah.
Like she's like looks scared and like kind of reaching out and kind of like almost like a grabbing motion with her hand as she like struggles like to kind of try to swim in space. Not really maybe to that much, but like a little bit of panic kind of to make us all like panic with her. But it just kind of she like opens her eyes and holds her hand out like Superman and just like do 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 do.
Right, like she's done it before.
Yeah,
which was kind of weird.
Well, one thing I've learned is that Disney really likes to. It's like a common theme for them to have people get ejected into space, like without any gear on, because they did it in both Guardians of the Galaxy movies too. Those were like two major scenes
Yeah.
where you see people like just dying out in space without any gear on.
And someone actually mentioned this, that this pretty much happened to Kanan in Star Wars Rebels before. Darth Maul ejects him out of a space station through an airlock, and then Kanan manages to pull himself back and survive the vacuum of space. So I was like, oh yeah, they have done that.
Well, it's also
Well,
just,
and
like Rebels was also the first one to do the whole lights hyperspacing through other things. Like Hera takes
Yeah.
them into hyperspace and blows up a space station.
Yeah.
She kind of jumps through it in more of like in a crashing sense, because like she's obviously still fine afterwards, but I don't know. It's interesting.
So if you guys don't mind me kind of switching gears again, but while we're kind of on the scene of when Leia gets tossed out there, they obviously killed Admiral Akbar there. I've seen this going around several places. I'm sure both of you have seen that too, but had either of you considered the fact that rather than having Admiral Holdo as a character to begin with, they could have just replaced her role with Admiral Akbar and the movie would have been better off for it? Because, Admiral Holdo's role was to take over for the Resistance in place of Leia, which I felt, Admiral Akbar was an admiral who fought in the Clone Wars and the Galactic Civil War and is now fighting this one. So he must be very high ranked to begin with. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for the writers to make him, second to Leia in that manner. I thought it would have made Poe's mutiny a little bit more gray, I guess, because I would assume that most of us were rooting for Poe during that. But to have someone that we know and love like Admiral Akbar be the opposing force to that would have made it a little bit more emotional and hard to invest in either side, harder anyways. And I felt it would have made the sacrifice of, in this case, Admiral Akbar sacrificing himself.
Instead of a brand new character that they introduce and you only gets 10 minutes of screen time. We just meet her and then we say goodbye to her.
Yeah.
That could, and that would eliminate all of the conflict, because if Admiral Akbar took over and Poe was like, hey, what are we doing? Admiral Akbar probably would have just told him. I still don't understand why they were hiding all that from Poe. They had a plan all along, but how come no one was filling him in on it?
Yeah.
They treated Poe. Poe came off as like a new member of this team. And like he didn't understand how things worked. But he was very well respected by everyone. So I don't know why they wouldn't tell him what their plan was. I could see because then I'm like, oh, maybe there's a traitor on board, or like maybe Holdo is like a traitor or something, and that's why they can't openly reveal what they're gonna do. But that wasn't the case, though. I don't know why they couldn't just say it.
Yeah. Well, that's the only thing that Admiral Akbar wouldn't have engendered, is that I did spend part of my first viewing wondering, is she a traitor? Like, is she trying to get them all killed?
Yeah. But
That's
see,
right.
even that, if they cut that out of the movie, would it have made the movie worse? If they replaced it with like Ryan's idea, would that have taken away from the movie? Did the movie really need that side plot?
No, but I think you can nitpick just about every scene in that way. I don't know. It's a difficult question.
Yeah, it is. I also felt that Luke could have told everybody his plan, because Poe kind of had to figure it out after the fact. Like, oh, he's a distraction. Oh, okay, let's get out of here.
Right. Like, what if they'd all run out to help him? He would have been like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, because Finn was like, hey, we got to get out there and help him. And Poe's like, no. Let's just see where this goes. He's setting up a distraction. I would love it if Luke told everyone, and then one guy goes, hey, Kylo, he's not real. He's just a projection.
Yeah. And I know this is a nitpick that very few Star Wars fans will have, but the Poe learning his lesson as to listen to the chain of command and not be such a hothead is now the third time he's learned that lesson in canon.
Really?
Yeah. And so, again, not everyone reads all the extended universe material. In fact, probably 1% of people who see this movie or less, read all the extended universe material. But as someone like that, I was like, I thought in my mind, they're really doing this again. I thought it was just the second time, but then I watched one of my favorite Star Wars channels kind of talk about it, and they're like, yeah, it happened at this point, and at this point. I'm like, oh yeah, it did happen the second time. So this is now officially the third time, Poe's learning this lesson. And so I was like, with kind of that. But
well, that goes back to what I was saying, where they treated Poe like a brand new team member. That like, oh, kid, you don't know how this operates. You got a lot to learn. And it's like, I think he's been around for a while. He's pretty well respected.
yeah, so who knows? But let's talk about some good things. We've been kind of a negative train of thought for a little while. A lot of people online kind of complained about the humor. And probably the only one that I would be complaining about would be the Luke lightsaber throw. We went over that already. But I thought the rest of the humor was great throughout the rest of the movie. My favorite probably being the moment when Chewie is eating the porg and all the other porgs are just staring at him. I was dying.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that the porgs ended up being fine. I know so many people were worried about them. I was kind of indifferent. I'm like, well, let's give them a chance and see how they do it. I don't think they were overused or anything. I think kids will love it.
Yeah.
Like, it was fine.
I was totally fine with the porgs.
Yep, I think it was perfect.
I said I really hope they make a roasted porg like figure or something though. I want that. The one that Chewie was holding. I want a replica of one of those.
Holding a roasted porg.
That would be amazing.
There's actually a fun fact that they shared after filming is that the original purpose for the porgs is that that island had native puffins there. And so like the puffins would just be like wandering around set and wandering around the shots, so to speak. The idea to make a very puffin looking or at least shaped, creature in the Star Wars universe, and they came, they settled on the porgs. So, obviously they made the porgs have some, scenes themselves, but the original purpose was just for like, as they were wandering in the background of the shots and they needed something to cover them up with.
Yeah, I actually loved both that scene where he has the cooked ones and they're all just like mortified staring at him. And then there's when he turns sideways in like the crystal cave and it like flies and hits the window and it's like, I was dying.
That's actually, I think, one of my favorite shots of the movie is when Chewbacca's flying the Millennium Falcon and he lets out that roar and then that porg mimics him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know they showed that in the trailer, but just within the movie, I'm like, I don't know why I love this shot so much, but I do.
That whole scene of him flying through those crystal caves might be one of my favorite parts of the movie. Like that's the Star Wars-y feeling part of the entire movie, and I loved every second of it.
Like the minute you see the shadow of the Millennium Falcon fly over like the busted up TIE fighters, like I was just like, yes.
Yeah, I don't really talk very much in movies, but that scene when he flies into the cave with all those red crystals, I turn to my wife and I'm like, oh my gosh, like look at this. This looks so cool. But then he flies out of it like right away. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it only lasts like maybe 30 seconds or so, but they've set up perfectly. They're like, oh, fighters attack that ship, and they're like, they really hate that ship, but then done. I was just like, yes!
It was perfect. The music callback was great. And like Kylo's reaction to it, it's basically a living specter representation of his father.
Yeah.
It's like, blow that piece of junk out of the sky. Like he did that line really well, I feel like.
Yeah.
It's like, it was great.
There was, and I'm not trying to be negative again, but there was some of the humor that I at least didn't feel like played off too well. Like, it's very weird that a Star Wars movie opens up with a "Can you hear me now?" bit.
I thought it was funny.
I was definitely okay with that. A lot of people don't like that one, but I thought it fits, Hux and Poe's characters perfectly, and
I just felt it went on a little too long. And then I felt like Hux like kind of broke character a little bit when he's like, "Can you hear me? Like, is this happening? Oh, he can. Oh," and then he's like, "He's just tooling with you, sir." Like, I don't know. That just didn't fit to me.
Yeah, I was fine with that one, and I could understand your complaints on it, especially since it was kind of the first scene of the movie, and so it's kind of setting the tone. And if it didn't land, it didn't land. But no, I thought that scene was fine because Hux is just so like pompous and imperial, and Poe, we already kind of know that's kind of how he is from the very beginning of Force Awakens when he's like, who talks first? You talk first, I talk first. Can't really be with that apparatus, So it's kind of a continuation of that to where he's obviously stalling, and so what better way to stall than to get Hux to monologue and then pretend like he didn't hear him, so he starts over again,
Well, speaking of Hux, that's probably another one of my favorite parts when Hux is standing over Kylo when he's knocked out after the throne room scene.
yes.
And then he sees him there and he's like starts reaching for his blaster, like, all right, I'm just going to make sure that he's out of here because I hate this guy. And then
Yeah.
he wakes up and he like quickly puts it back in there.
Yeah, very nonchalantly like closes his robes again. Like that was perfect.
Great, the whole movie. You know, just him.
Yeah, to see that dynamic between those two, like I do like that a lot.
Yeah.
Where it's like they're the two like people really in charge now and they don't like each other.
Well, I thought it was like it's Domhnall Gleeson, right? Is that his name?
Yeah.
The guy who plays Hux. I think he did a absolutely flawless job throughout the whole movie. Like every scene he was in, I thought it was perfect. That scene where like Snoke congratulates him, and then like he's walking out, and he kind of gives this like smug, haha, like I pleased the master smile
Yeah.
to Kylo as he leaves. Like that's just perfect.
Yeah.
And I want to give mad props to Kylo Ren as well. I have one small problem with him that I'll get to later, but I think overall he's turning out to be a really, really great character in this new trilogy.
Yeah.
He is a much bigger dude than I thought he was.
Yeah.
That scene where like he doesn't have a shirt on, like he's big. He's like I knew he was tall, but I kind of pictured him because everyone talks about how Kylo Ren's like the angsty teen. So you just picture like a tall, like skinny, kind of like nerdy guy. But yeah, when they showed him like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like he's pretty intimidating actually.
I saw a funny comic online after the movie came out where it just showed him like taking his shirt off and like flexing in the mirror and then being like, all right, please talk to Ray. Please talk to Ray. He's like focusing. And then like Ray's like, I don't want to talk right now. He's like, yeah, me neither. He's like all flexing and
Yeah.
See, I thought that like that whole in terms of like a well written twist, like every word that Ray saw in her vision of his future was true, but she just didn't understand what it meant. And I love that, like how it kind of mirrors the of her and Luke, like when he sees the future on Dagobah, and like, oh, I've got to go, like my friends are gonna die, and Luke's and Yoda's like, you don't know that,
yeah.
and Luke says a similar thing, and she goes, and he's like, well, he's gonna turn, I know it, like if I go there, he'll turn, and she was right, he turned on Snoke,
Yeah.
and like everything that Snoke said was true. I thought that part was really well done,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I love the whole throne room scene.
Yeah, the throne room scene I loved every second of. So
Well, see, and even with Ray,
Oh,
potentially being from nobodies, like her parents being nobodies, it's like then how does that explain the whole like flash sequence or whatever you would call it, like her vision in the first one when she touches Luke's lightsaber, and like you hear Yoda talking to her, but you hear like Obi-Wan say, Ray, these are your first steps. So it's like how does Obi-Wan even know who this is?
I mean,
Or are they just kind of deciding to throw that out the window too?
I think that's still going to be a question that's answered in 9. Either A, it's not true and her parentage is more important than we were led on to believe, or it goes along with the theme it did at the end of the movie where, like, everyone can be the chosen one-ish sort of thing.
But see,
Well-
I understand the movie, like, it goes for that, like, greatness can come from nothing, or, like, greatness, can come from someone who's considered a nobody. And I think that is a great message, and it's true, but then they kind of push it towards, like, but you're only great if you have the Force. Like, if you know how to use the Force, like, even the little boy they show at the end, it's like, there's a lot of great people that aren't one with the Force, and now they're kind of being overlooked by people that do use the Force.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you have people, 'cause I thought the movie was trying to make the opposite point for the most part, especially the things that Luke was telling Rey. Like to say that the Jedi, that the light does not belong to the Jedi,
Mm-hmm.
and to say that the Jedi die, the light dies is vanity. Like that, all that stuff. I think that he still believed, even when he snapped out of his funk. That's like, and we do see a lot of great heroics from people who aren't Jedi, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Han Solo himself is proof of that, just in the original trilogy.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong. Like I understand that, but I just felt like with the movie ending on that note of like, oh, let's show this special kid, and what do you know? He has force powers. It's like
Yeah,
that's
but he just finished being inspired by a kid who probably doesn't have force powers. Like he wasn't the one telling the story.
oh yeah, that's true. What? Speaking of that, when does that take place?
I don't know. That was weird.
Because I'm like, okay, because even the second time I saw it, I'm like, okay, maybe he wasn't telling that story, and it's like, well, no, there's that giant cannon, and he talks about Luke Skywalker showing up.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know how that story got off with someone else, but maybe there was it's like spread the story, and it's a couple months later or something. But
yeah, you're right.
I was bothered by all of the children in this movie. I have a very love but mostly hate relationship with child actors.
Yeah.
And like the faces these kids were making during the entire movie, it was like these kids are terrible. Like, I'm off the screen right now. Like when the mean guy knocks them down and the kid like leans up with his like face on, I'm like, oh god.
I feel like they do a lot of that for the kids, though. I think kids like seeing kids in movies, like accomplishing something.
Have good kids in movies. Like get the cast of Stranger Things and ask them why they're good and all these other child actors are terrible. It's not that hard.
Why don't we just take the Stranger Things kids and put them in every movie?
Everything. Put them in everything. If you ever need a kid, it's got to be one of those four.
Now,
everybody it is now.
My brother-in-law pointed this out, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but that kid at the end that has the broom that is, symbolizing a lightsaber, do you think that's paying homage to the lightsaber kid from like years ago, that YouTube video of the kid pretending that broom is a lightsaber?
I doubt it. If it is, it's a very oblique reference.
Well, but that whole iron scene where the iron's coming down and it looks like a ship and it ends up being an iron, that's a reference to some weird Star Wars spoof. I don't even remember what it's called.
Really? I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, look it up. It's a very specific Easter egg that most people would not understand the reference to. I think Patton Oswalt was the one that like pointed it out. He said like, "Oh my God, it actually referenced this, whatever it's called. I don't remember."
Huh, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like I need more good things to say about the movie because I really did like it. Like, it's obviously better than all the prequels in my opinion.
Even episode 3?
Yes.
Huh, all right.
There's a lot of good in episode 3, but a lot of it is still really bad.
Yeah.
And it's whenever Hayden Christensen is talking. It's fairly bad.
Someone proposed this question, or maybe you guys know. How come? Well, Rian Johnson said in an interview today, they were like, "Why did you have Yoda appear to Luke? Why didn't you have Obi-Wan or even Anakin?" And he said, "Young Anakin has no like relationship with Luke. Like they only had their one moment. He knew him mainly as Darth Vader, and they had their heart-to-heart, right before he died and stuff, and that was it." He said, Obi-Wan, like he's like, I would have loved to have Force Ghost of, a young Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor come back, but Luke also never had a relationship with him. Like it was just the older Obi-Wan that he knew. So Yoda was the only one that actually had a relationship with Luke. That was his teacher. But someone asked the question, how come Anakin wouldn't project himself to Kylo Ren at any point and just be like, hey, I know what you're doing. I did the same thing and it doesn't work. Like, just stop. Is there a limitation to what the Force Ghosts, like who they can appear to or what they can do?
Not as of current canon. No, they can kind of do what they want.
Yeah.
Okay.
But only Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Anakin and Yoda can do it. And probably now Luke.
So why wouldn't Anakin just appear to Kylo Ren and talk to him? Like, hey, I'm your grandpa. I'm your grandpa. Come sit on my knee. I'm going to tell you a couple stories.
So I have a couple theories on this. Everything that we have in canon so far that I can think of is people appearing to people that had a relationship with the people they're appearing to.
Mm-hmm.
And my other theory is it has something to do with your Force attunement. Because you notice that Yoda didn't show up until after Luke opened himself back up to the Force. So I wonder if he was literally shutting them out. And I
Oh,
wonder if on some level Kylo is doing the same thing, knowing that his grandfather quote unquote failed, but I'm gonna finish it. And so like he doesn't want to talk to his grandfather because like what is he gonna tell him? Nothing helpful.
yeah. Huh.
So maybe
Yeah, I
he's
can see that.
keeping him out. I don't know. It's total conjecture. But
Well, sure, but I mean, it's fun to think.
In the book, a certain point of view, you get a certain point of view of A New Hope from the perspective of Qui-Gon Jinn from the Force. And he physically manifests himself to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And basically, I don't want to go too much into it, but there's a few things. A, it's not really physically painful because I mean he's a Force being or so, but it's like taking yourself out of like pure bliss. If I'm just use normal human terms,
Mhm.
to put yourself in a physical manifestation, and then at the same time, like time also doesn't have much meaning because Qui-Gon like sees the island with old Luke Skywalker on it at the same time as is the events of A New Hope. And it's almost like the squabbles of petty mortals, kind of feeling like he's just so above what's going on that it's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll talk to Obi-Wan sort of thing, even though he still cares about Obi-Wan. He's like, oh, Obi-Wan will be dead soon and he'll be able to see everything I see. So I don't know how that translates to the other characters we know who could do this, or how different it would be, but it's not an easy thing for them just to kind of show up willy-nilly.
yeah. Well, I really like that they picked Yoda. Not only does it kind of mirror Episode 5 a little bit, but he not only did he have a good relationship with Luke. I mean, he was his like actual Jedi
Yeah.
trainer, and so he was able to reference very specific things. He's like, he brought up the always his mind is like where he is going. Like I forget the full line, but he references that line to him. He's like, you're always looking on the horizon, never what's right in front of your face. And that actually like that line and that discussion between Yoda and Luke is my absolute favorite part of the movie, and it really spoke to me about that, like, because Luke this whole time he's talking about balance and like the balance between light and dark, the balance between life and death, like Rey's whole vision, and he's like, yes, there's balance in everything, and yet here he stands with this giant blind spot to the fact that failure is the balance of success.
Hmm.
And like
Yeah.
and then Yoda tells him there is no greater teacher than failure.
Yeah.
Like I love that, and it's such a good message. I mean, just to my life personally, like I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I really do like that line a lot.
Very good scene.
Yeah, and so
How do you guys?
the whole time Yoda's like, "You are an idiot. Like your failure is exactly what makes you a good teacher for Rey." But it's too late now because she's gone, and I set your tree on fire.
Oh, yeah.
But little do you know, the books are not in there. Rey has the books.
Right, I loved that reveal too.
I think what he's saying is like, nothing in that tree exists, or like Rey already has everything that you can.
And Rey already has like the knowledge that's contained inside of that tree. Like the way he worded it, he's basically the first time I heard it, I thought like, oh, he's just saying like she already knows everything that's in there. But no, he's saying she actually physically has the knowledge that's in that tree.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
How did you guys feel about Yoda being the exact Yoda from like Return of the Jedi?
I thought he could do without being like the goofiness of.
Oh no, I
Empire,
just mean like the physical Yoda, like the puppet.
Oh yeah,
like not updated at all.
Totally cool with that.
Yeah, I thought that was neat. Like it is a little jarring at first. I always said like I wish they would make new Star Wars movies using the technology they had in the 70s and 80s. Like I would love to see that. But so this is something I always wanted, and it is a little jarring at first. Just when he looks that way compared to how advanced like the animatronics and stuff are throughout the rest of the movie. But I just thought that was so cool. I read today that they even used the original molds of Yoda from Empire and Jedi to make this puppet.
Nice.
But I was like, it's so funny because like they didn't even CGI like his mouth or anything to make it, line up better with what he's saying. Like, no, this is classic puppet Yoda.
The podcast I listened to made a really good point. He's like, since Rogue One and Episode 8 were at some point in production at the same time, in some ways, he's like, at one point at Lucasfilm, people were toiling and struggling over computers trying to make a perfect rendition of Tarkin, and the other side of Lucasfilm, they're just building a puppet from the 70s.
I never thought about that. That's great.
Yeah. The timing was probably the same with post-production of Rogue One happening with pre-production and filming of Episode 8. So probably happening at the same time.
And remember how different they made Yoda look in Episode 1? And do you guys remember, like, when people were like, why does Yoda look so different? Their answer was, oh, well, he was a bit younger back then.
Yeah.
But he's like 500 years old.
900.
And then they just CG'd him in the Blu-ray release anyways.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did like that Yoda moment, though. It was a bit goofy at times, but, I mean, it's Yoda.
Yeah, maybe just tone it down like 1 or 2 notches. Like a little bit of goofy Yoda, but...
I loved his little cackle when he set the tree on fire.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
If I had force powers and I set someone's tree on fire unexpectedly, I'd probably be cackling, too.
I know I said earlier that seeing it the second time, nothing really changed for me, but I think if I had to pick something, it might be that scene. I think I did enjoy that scene a bit more the second time, and I really took in what Yoda was saying and really understood it a lot better the second time around.
Yeah, same here.
So
to specifically reference the scenes that I thought Rian Johnson was literally talking to the fans, it was during that scene where he says, you've got to let go. Like Yoda basically tells him, like, you've got to let go and let your students surpass you. And then also in the throne room, when Kylo was yelling at Rey, like the camera is such that he's yelling at the screen. It's almost literally looking in the camera, not quite, but he really close. And he's like, "No, you're not letting it go." And I'm like, he's talking right to us right now.
Yeah.
He's like, you're still holding on. Let go of the Jedi. Let go of the Sith. Like everything you thought should be the way it is, let it go. And
but see,
very interesting.
Let it go.
It is interesting, but I feel like it would have played better if The Force Awakens was totally different, because they set us all up to think, oh, okay, new characters, classic Star Wars. Oh, wait. No, they're telling us that all that stuff's stupid and we need to move on.
And I don't know. I don't think it's meant to be as negative as a lot of people are taking it. Like I don't think they're trying to say The Force Awakens was stupid necessarily. Although I disagree a little bit with that, but I definitely agree that I lost my train of thought.
Choo choo.
Laser sword.
Why does he say laser sword?
That's what they say in
I guess he's making fun of it.
And Anakin says laser sword in Episode 1.
Yeah, he does, but I don't know. I thought it was interesting. This was the only time that Luke referred to Darth Sidious as Darth Sidious.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, he just says Sidious.
He knows his true name.
Yeah. Can we I feel like we can't finish this without talking about Captain Phasma though.
Oh my gosh.
Why?
So the second time I felt better about it in the second viewing also, because if you watch just the fight scene where she knows what's going on, she kicks his butt pretty handily. He is down that hole in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's quick.
And so that was gratifying in a way, but then he immediately just because then she starts shooting at Rose and you're like, oh crap, she's gonna kill Rose next. And then he shows up and hits her in the head.
Well, he Marty McFlies her.
Right, exactly.
From Back to the Future 2.
Which was great. And his line at that point was really cool, too.
She said, you'll always be scum, and he said, rebel scum.
Yeah, and I love that line, too, especially for him. He finally accepts, his role now as, I'm a rebel, I'm committed to this cause.
Well, see, and I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because we didn't really talk too much about Finn, but I'm not saying every single thing needs an explanation, but with Finn, the fact that we didn't get any more information as to why, out of the millions of stormtroopers over the years, he's the only one to kind of break away and go, "Whoa, this is crazy! Like, I'm not drinking this Kool-Aid anymore. I'm out of here." Like, how come that's never happened before?
Call me crazy.
That's a good question.
You would think that Phasma, that would have been a perfect opportunity for Phasma to reveal something like that or just talk more about that, but we still have no idea why he's the only one to just go, "Yep, I'm out. This is weird."
Yeah.
So we're kind of getting close on time. So I think this has been a really, really good discussion. Trent, you've given me a lot to think about.
You did, actually. There's definitely more I'm thinking about now.
So I'm looking for things to be more hopeful and to see it in a better light when I go see it again the next few days or so.
Awesome.
And so so thank you for that. You know, it's still an overall good movie. Happy I saw it, and you know, look forward to see what they're possibly going to do with Episode 9 at this point. So, what do you two have to say? This kind of closing statements.
You want to go first, Trent, or?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of the stuff I said probably comes off, as negative, and I really don't mean to do that. I know that's kind of how it was when we did our Stranger Things 2, like spoiler cast, but I mean, Stranger Things and especially Star Wars are just something I really love and really care about. I'm not trying to be one of those like crazy fans that's like, no, it has to be this way. It can't be any other way. You can't do anything different. But I'd be lying if I just said, oh, well, I thought it was good. Like, I understand why they did the things they did, because I don't. There's some things that even after our discussion, I still don't understand why they went in that direction. But like Ryan even said, I want to be one of those fans that loves it. Like, I'm so happy, Trent, that you saw it a second time and you do see it in a different light now. And you did kind of, turn me on to a few different theories and just, ideas and stuff like that, and just looking at it kind of in a different light. But at this point, I can't say that it's one of my favorite Star Wars movies, and I can't say that it's the movie that, I really wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But if you love it, that's awesome. I'm jealous of you.
Thank you. I think that it's kind of a good lesson for us in a way, like as fans in general, that like if we're going to keep experiencing Star Wars movies every year for the foreseeable future, we're gonna have to be okay with, Thor 2 Star Wars movies. Like where it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Han Solo was gonna be the first one, but apparently it's this one where people had to swallow a little bit of like dashed hopes in a small way.
Yeah.
But I think that like it's okay for it not to be your favorite. I mean, we talked about a lot about this last week and the week before with like gatekeeping and like what it means to be a fan. It's like I don't want to like try to tell you guys that it's wrong to not like it or that you're you should feel bad for your opinion. Because like it's going to appeal to different people in different ways, and I think that our ability, I mean, like the age old is Episode 5 or 6 the best Star Wars movie. Like I love that we get to have that argument about Episode 7 and 8. Like I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I think that's my biggest takeaway is that like I wish that the fandom in general and a lot of the Facebook groups that I follow online could just like take a breath and realize that it's okay to like it and it's okay not to like it.
Yeah, I think like if this is the direction they really want to take it in, I almost wish that I'm glad these movies exist, but I almost wish that they weren't tied as much to the Skywalker saga as they are.
Yeah.
Like Force Awakens, like we talked about a few times during this, it kind of set us up to think it was going to be one way, and now they're kind of just shutting all that down. So I would almost wish that it was all these same characters, because I love all the new characters they've introduced. I love them.
Yeah.
But I kind of wish it was just about them, and maybe a few like ties in, here and there, but not as deep into it, especially knowing that now they're already planning a trilogy that has nothing to do with any of this.
And that's kind of one of my takeaways too. Is like I wish Ryan would have held back a little bit, and I don't know. I don't know at what point he learned that he was going to be doing the new trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, yeah, I'm in a similar feeling of you that I wish they would have kept it more like Force Awakens for the most part, and then waited till the new trilogy to really
Yeah.
way.
You know?
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Well,
JJ, we trust for Episode 9.
Let's reboot the whole franchise right now.
Say
Throw it
what?
up. Let's do Flashpoint, and
No, we gotta end it. We gotta get 2019 Episode 9. We've waited too long.
yeah,
well, I do want to end on one positive note. It's not necessarily related to Star Wars, but it does relate to like just being fans in general. I wasn't on last week's show when you guys talked about that, but I experienced something at the movie theater today that really got me like looking at things from a different perspective. And it was during the Avengers Infinity War trailer. Now, I went to the movie today. It was an 11:15 show. So, a very different audience. A Monday 11:15 a.m. show, very different audience than the Thursday night first showing people. Totally different audience. It was cheaper, it was on a weekday, a lot of these people aren't working, for whatever reason, or kids are in school, so it's a lot of adults. So during that trailer, they showed it, and people are reacting. I heard one lady behind me go like, "Oh, wow, they're bringing all of them together now." And, like I kind of chuckled at that. But at the end, when Thor turns around and says, "Who the hell are you guys?" and they showed the Guardians of the Galaxy, half the theater like lost their minds. They were like so surprised and so shocked, like they weren't expecting them to be in it. And at first I'm like, what? Like, why is this such a big deal? But then I realized, like, these are fans that, probably love those movies, but don't know anything beyond what they see in those movies, but still love that universe. And I just think that's so cool that there's a lot of people out there that love those movies and can still be surprised by something that it's just common knowledge to us. Because we look up the making of the movies, and we look up all the different things, the side stories, the books, the comics, everything. But for the casual moviegoers that genuinely love it, I just think it's so cool that they get to have experiences and moments like that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
They loved it. I mean, they went like crazy for it. Like, I think that got more of a reaction than anything in Star Wars gave them. People were so happy. So just wanted to kind of throw that in there.
Awesome.
It's fun to be a fan.
It is.
All right, Trent, you want to take us out?
Sure. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for yet another Star Wars-centric episode of the Brief Nerdity Podcast. We would like to invite you again to write to us on social media. Let us know what you would like us to talk about. Give us some listener topics and questions. Or go to our website at briefnerdy.com and then /iTunes also to go to our iTunes feed. And we will see you all next week.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Bye, TJ.
Oh, have a good night.
Oh, I didn't even talk about DJ. Oh well. Bye.